Hi there, this is Bibi Cameron here. Welcome to a new video. Today I'm going to show you how to emboss metal sheets and how to add color to wood using distress inks and Nuvo sparkle sprays. First, I want to tell you where I got the inspiration to do this. And as many times, it was my mother who inspired me to create. She was a real crafty bee, like you and me, or maybe worse. She was obsessed about learning any single technique in the universe. And we didn't have internet back in the 90s, so crafting was the big deal. Back in time, we would never imagine having embossing folders and a machine to do this. We used to do this all by hand, 100% by hand, using very thick aluminum and a stylus. Nowadays, we give everything for granted, and we believe that all these technologies in the crafting industry has been there forever, but it hasn't been like that. So I want to share with you an idea to recreate that kind of work I used to do with my mom, but using supplies that you might have in your craft room. Of course, if you don't have a wooden box, you might be able to get these very affordable boxes on your craft store. So I'm going to start with the box, okay? It's not the main thing I want to share with you today, but perhaps from all this you can open your mind to all the possibilities you have when using paper craft supplies. So I'm going to remove the packaging of these boxes, and I'm not going to use sandpaper to make the wood smoother. I'm just going to leave it like that. And using a screwdriver, I'm going to remove the hinges just to make the ink application a little bit easier. But that's not essential. You can just leave them there and not worry about them. And just to make sure I'm not going to lose any of those tiny screws, I'm going to put them in this bowl. And then I'm going to apply distress inks. You can use any distress ink, color or quality you might have, and you can also use any blending tool you might have, or apply the ink directly from the ink pad to the wood. And I'm using a combination of weathered wood distress ink and speckled egg oxide distress ink. There is absolutely nothing challenging about doing this. The only thing you need to bear in mind is that you need to use a sealer to protect the ink, because this ink is not waterproof. It's actually water-based, so any spillage of water or any liquid or humidity will alter the ink, and you don't want that to happen. So I just grabbed something I have in my stash. That was the first thing I thought about, because it's the things I use in my garden and for my DIY projects. This is just a clear sealer or varnish, and this is very easy to apply because it's a spray. But of course, you don't need to use this. If you have any glaze or any similar product, you can also use that to seal the ink. I'm just using what I have at hand. So once I finish doing this, I'm going to put this aside. And just to give you extra ideas, for this box here, I'm going to use walnut stain distress oxide spray. So I'm going to spray this. I'm going to make sure that this is completely covered. And this is going to be a super fun hot mess. This is messy, I cannot deny it. You will get some ink on your hands, but you can also use gloves to do this and make this outside in the garden where you don't have to clean that much. I just have to do it here for the purpose of this video. You have to allow this to dry and then apply the sealer in spray or any sealer you might have. I'm going to also alter the color of these box legs. These are metallic jewelry box legs. I got them online. You can do a Google search to find similar or the same. They are available in different colors, but I only have silver. So to alter the color, I'm going to use gold metallic paint, and I'm going to apply 2 layers of paint. This is the first one. I applied the other one off camera, and this is how the legs are going to look when they are dry. Okay, I'm going to put these to aside, and now I'm going to show you how to use the metallic sheets with the embossing folder and how to add a super cool vintage finishing touch to these super shiny metallic sheets. They come in 4 different colors. These are by Tonic Studios, and I have neglected these sheets for a long time, but not any longer. These are very thin metal sheets. They are 0.07 milliliters thick. This made them super easy to cut using dies or just guillotines or scissors, and also to emboss them using embossing folders, but I won't advise to use them by themselves because these are very delicate, easy to crease or tear apart. So to work with them, you need to add them or adhere them onto a hard surface or something that keeps the shape of the metal sheet. Just to give you more samples, here I have some cards I made over a year ago, and I used the metal sheets to die cut those beautiful leaves that I use as a topper on the cards. To add sturdiness to the die cuts, I first added a double-sided adhesive sheet at the back of the metal sheet. Then I just die cut these as I normally do, and I remove the backing of the double-sided adhesive to then stick these onto a thicker die cut made out of 300 grams cardstock. So to make or to apply the technique I want to share with you today, the first thing you need to do is to trim the metal sheet to the size of your project. You can also die cut it if you want to, and you can use any die you might have, and then after die cutting the metal sheet you can emboss it. But it's key to completely cut or trim the paper to the size or the shape you want before embossing. If you are going to use embossing folders, then the size of the embossing folder is a limitation for the size of your project. So you might not be able to make bigger projects using the embossing folder, although you could be very creative and try to match the seams of the paper to make something larger. And yes, you can make tiny little metallic embossed pieces to make smaller boxes or to make some ornaments for the Christmas tree. You know, the sky is the limit. So these pieces here measures 5 inches and a quarter by 3 inches and a quarter, because this is the size of the boxes I'm going to be making today. To emboss these metal sheets, I'm going to use 3-dimensional embossing folders by Simon Says Stamp. These embossing folders are going to create the most gorgeous and deep embossed impression on different paper qualities. I made a previous video using this embossing folder that is called Magnolia Branches, but today I'm going to be using this embossing folder called Vine Canopy. I just thought that this was perfect for these projects. So all you have to do is to use a die cutting machine. I'm using the Spellbinders Platinum 6 die cutting machine. This is a small and very compact die cutting machine, and I'm going to use the platform that comes with the machine and also a metal shim. This is designed to help to die cut heavy materials like acetate or to use with very intricate dies, and also with these embossing folders. It seems like this metal sheet doesn't have a right or wrong side, but I think it does, and it's easy to identify. So I'm going to place the right side of the paper against the embossed side of the embossing folder, and I can see what part of the embossed image I want to transfer to that metal sheet. And I know this video is longer than it needs, but if you close the embossing folder in this position, for example, the metal sheet is going to move and you are not going to be able to place it in the correct spot. So all you have to do is to rotate the embossing folder. You make sure that you have that in the right place. Hold the metal sheet, rotate the embossing folder and close it. Then all you have to do is to place it in the die cutting machine with the platform, the metal sheet, grab a piece of cardstock, fold it in half, place this on top of your embossing folder and run this through the die cutting machine. It doesn't really matter if you put the metal chip over the embossing folder or underneath the embossing folder. As long as you have the adequate pressure, this will completely emboss the metal chip with no problem, and you will have the most gorgeous metallic element for your projects. But this is very shiny and I want this to look old or vintage and a lot more opaque. So I'm going to apply gesso over these two pieces and I'm going to allow this to dry overnight. I have a piece I made yesterday, so I'm going to be using this one here, and you can see that by embossing and also adding gesso, that metallic sheet already changed a lot. Now we are going to add some color to this piece, and I'm going to be using Nuvo sparkle sprays and distress sprays or distress inks. Please bear in mind that depending on the colors of sprays you choose for your project, you might completely transform the color of the metal sheet. I don't want to change the color that much. What I want to do is to reveal or enhance the embossed image and also add that old and vintage look to the finished boxes. So I'm going to spray this using cocoa powder Nuvo sparkle spray, just like that. And I'm going to use this sponge. I'm just using here a paper clip to hold that sponge and avoid getting my hands more inky. So I'm just going to help myself to spread that Nuvo sparkle spray over that piece. And now I'm going to gently pass the sponge over the piece to remove the excess of spray that is on the raised areas of the embossed image. Once this is dry, you can repeat the process, and if you don't have this sparkle spray, you can also use your distress oxide sprays or distress stain sprays. I'm using here walnut stain, and then I apply this over the Nuvo sparkle, and these products work all well together. The Nuvo sparkle sprays are permanent when dry, so by mixing these products you can also add that fixative element to the distress oxide, or you can also spray the same clear sealer over the piece just to make sure that the ink is going to be in place and there is not going to be any risk of having ink smearing after working with this. You can also see on my craft mat another silver piece that I made using another embossing folder, but I like this one more for this project, so please ignore that one. I know it's hard to ignore. For that one I use Magnolia branches embossing folder and a blue Nuvo sparkle spray to add color to the metal sheet, and I did the same process. Now I'm going to adhere the metal sheet to the wooden box using multi-medium by Ranger. So you need a thick layer of this, and you just need to place your embossed piece over the glue, and using a sponge or something, help yourself to adhere the edges of that piece really well into that wooden piece. I haven't assembled the box at this stage. I'm just doing this piece by piece. I think it's crucial to let you know that I took my time to do this, and I didn't make any pressure over the embossed or raised areas of the metal sheet because I can easily flatten them up, and I don't want that. So I'm being very gentle. I'm applying gentle pressure on these edges here using the sponge, and that's it. I'm making sure that everything is properly adhered, and I'm going to assemble the box just by screwing the hinges. And once this is done, I'm going to attach the legs to this box, and I'm going to be using hot glue to adhere these legs in place just like that. These legs also comes with screws, but this wood is not enough thick to be able to use those screws, so you can use any other strong adhesive to do this if you want to. Okay, to finish this box, I'm going to apply Nuvo Sparkle. This is cocoa powder color, and I'm going to apply this all over the box. After using any of the Nuvo sprays, you need to remove the nozzle from the bottle and wash it. You need to dip it in water and spray until the water comes clear from the nozzle, so that you make sure that there is no mica on the nozzle, and the nozzle is going to keep nice and healthy, because these bottles tend to get clogged, and that's very annoying. I was surprised because on Facebook I read some threads about this situation, and some people were thinking about binning the whole bottle with the product inside, and I say no, come on, we are not using Nuvo sprays as we could. The Nuvo sprays are basically a sparkle for your projects. You can splatter these on your projects. You can also use them or apply them with brushes on stamped images or die cuts, or the sky's the limit. This is a sparkle. It's shine for your projects. I will invite you to visit my blog, bibicameron.co.uk, and in the search box, write spray or Nuvo, and you will be able to find all the blog posts I have made using these products with loads of ideas. Now let me show you how I finished the other box, and you will notice here that there is not a correct order to do this. So I first use hot glue to adhere the legs in place, and then I affix the hinges. I really would prefer silver hinges, but this is what I got, and I didn't think about changing the color of the hinges, and I regret that deeply. So once my box is assembled, I'm going to emboss the metal sheet using Vine Canopy embossing folder, and I'm going to do exactly the same with the same tips I already mentioned before. Okay, now we can adhere this directly to the box, and we can paint it after, or we can paint it now, whatever you want. I'm going to be using the same multi-medium gel, and I'm going to apply that also at the back of the metal sheet. Once this is adhered in place, I'm going to use a sponge, as I just showed you before, to make sure that the edges of that piece are perfectly affixed or glued to that wooden box, and I'm going to use gesso over this piece. You will see that the gesso is wet here, and because the legs are super shiny, I'm also going to add gesso over the legs of this box like so. I'm going to allow this to dry. You can see that the gesso is looking very white, and when it dries it's a little bit more translucent. And then I can add a sparkle spray, but I don't want to make a mess, so I'm going to apply the sparkle spray on a little bowl, and using the sponge I'm going to apply it on the metal sheet. And I will repeat this over and over until I'm happy with the color. I also decided to add this sparkle spray all over the box, and because the sparkle spray dries permanent, I don't need to seal this. The sparkle spray is a slow drying product, so you need to wait at least 30 minutes to apply the next layer of color, so that you will have a better result. So I'm just spraying this directly on the legs. I also want to cover the hot glue. I'm awful using hot glue, and I get hot glue all over the place, so this is a perfect excuse to hide that glue, and nobody will notice that that hot glue is there. So once I do this, I can also use distress inks to add more drama and to make this look a lot more vintage or old. But yes, you can keep applying the paint until you feel that the paint is really getting into the crannies or those little embossed areas of that metal sheet. And that's pretty much what I did. And that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed this video and that you find here ideas and inspiration to get crafty with embossing folders inks and metal sheets. This will also make a fantastic gift for friends and family and for any occasion. Last but not least, do not forget to subscribe to this channel or visit my blog for more ideas and inspiration. Find the links to my blog and to supplies below this video and in the first comment in the comment section. Thank you very much for watching and happy crafting. Now I say goodbye, and I also wanted to let you know that today I got my COVID vaccine and I'm feeling great. I have no pain. I hope I keep this way. Bye.